The day is finally here. The day I've been looking forward to for a very long time. The day where I'm collaborating with a disc golf company for the first time on the channel. I can't wait to tell you who it is. That company is Elevation Disc Golf. Before we even get into the video, I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Elevation Discs. They've been so kind and so helpful throughout this whole process. They were kind enough to believe in the channel and send some Frisbees out for me to review for them. Shout out to them if you haven't already, which I'm sure you probably have heard of their discs before. Check them out on all the socials, Instagram, all the things. I honestly believe these are the most unique discs in disc golf right now. Go check them out. They sent out a Koi, which is an understable putter in the Eco Flex plastic, and you can tell it's got some really cool patterns to it. They also sent out the Interceptor in the Eco Flex plastic as well, and it's more of the overstable mid type disc and also an overstable approach. And lastly, they sent out this Gecko, which is an overstable non-speed, and this is actually in their Glow G plastic. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna play best shot with these three discs. I'm gonna play like a 9-hole loop, something like that. And I'm not too focused on the score. I really just wanna show you all the different possible shot shapes of these discs and how useful they are. Like a little bit of a spoiler, I have thrown these discs a little bit before making this video, and the Koi, after the first time I threw it, automatically went in my bag. All right, we're gonna start at hole 10, about 270 feet, a little bit of a low ceiling initially. There is like a creek that's kind of OB, a little bit left of the basket, which should showcase these discs well. That's really what I want to do. I want to play some holes that showcase the purpose of these discs very, very well. If you haven't noticed already, I want to point something out to you. These discs are incredibly flexible, floppy, however you want to describe them. As you can tell, we got a little bit of a wind today. By a little bit, I mean a lot of it. The tripod might blow over. All right, the Gecko. Interceptor. Oh, sit down. The Koi. Man, just went through those trees. Yes, these discs are incredibly flexible, floppy, however you want to word it. It doesn't really seem to affect the flight or the throwing of the disc very much. I'm sure that's one of the questions people have when they look into these discs. Flight going to be affected? Are they throwable? Whatever else. And I have found that it doesn't really affect my throw whatsoever. I mean, I was fairly used to it the first time I threw it. I'll talk more about that later on in the video too, like as far as feel and all of that goes. The Koi is not afraid of death putts. Behind the camera, there's OB. If you miss this putt, typically the disc is going to roll back and go OB with the Koi. Like, I gave it a full bid. It wasn't a good bid, but it was a full bid. And it literally sits right beside the basket. All right, we're over here at hole 2, about 282 feet. There's a double mando I'm not really concerned with through this tunnel of little tree, bushes, whatever they are. I'm going to throw the Gecko and the Interceptor on the forehand so you can see how they handle that. And then I'm going to throw the Koi on like a hyzer flip turnover. I'm sure there's a lot of questions with these discs, and I hope that I can answer them throughout this video. Discs, as you can tell, are not primarily made out of plastic, but rubber. And some of the questions that may come from that is like, well, do they feel the same in the hand? Do they throw well? Like, how can you determine all of that? The best way I can describe it is I've never felt a disc quite like this in my hands before, ever. These discs are the most unique I've ever thrown. At the same time, they also feel just like any other disc in the hand. The flight plate is certainly more floppy than normal flight plates, but the rim still having that sturdiness makes it just as easy to throw as any other disc. See what they do on forehand. Gecko. Bro, look how overstable that is. That's insane. Interceptor. Woo, I threw that low. All right, the Koi on a turnover. Y'all, look at that. You can't see it behind you, but there's an OB walking path. But again, the Koi is not afraid of death putts. Man, I love no rollaways on death putts. Hole 3, a little over 200 feet, kind of uphill. island shot, perfect hole type for these types of discs that aren't going to have any kind of ground action. This company created these incredibly unique discs, and with that comes a certain usefulness that I found. Because they're primarily made out of rubber, they don't really have any ground action. They tend to hit the ground and kind of bend and give and then flop a couple of feet from where they landed. I know if my disc hits on that island, it's going to stay there. We're going to go with the koi on a little bit of a hyzer flip. Oh, wow. That was so short. All right, interceptor on a big hyzer. All right, I'm going to throw the gecko. I'm going to try to throw like on a baby flex. Held it pretty good. So that gecko holding over, um, it still did not burn over, even though it was starting to like a 10-mile-an-hour headwind on the Anheuser. I thought it was pretty impressive. The interceptor was the closest. Honestly, the interceptor might make the back too. It's really good overstable approach. Hole 4, 195 feet. Pretty dead straight shot, but it does kind of slope off on the back end, and you can tell the basket is super elevated. So you're going to be very, very close to the pin for any kind of putt. I do want to point out, I'm sure you've noticed, I've kind of been leaving a lot of my shots very short. And the reason for that is because I have found with these discs, um, it's not necessarily true, but it feels like if you just really throw them hard, that they're going to like stretch out of your hand. And that's not true, because I have thrown them as hard as I could and they fly perfectly fine. Something about like this mental aspect of you think, oh, it's super floppy, I can't throw it super hard or it's just going to fly out of my hand weird. That is something to take in consideration with these. All right, koi. Interceptor. Ooh, that's way too left. All right, gecko. That's it. Bro, they just stick where they land. There really is no need to slow your arm speed or whatever with these discs. You can tell, and you've seen particularly through the interceptor and the gecko, they are plenty overstable and can handle any kind of torque that you put on them. I think it's just a mental thing you have to get past, is like, oh, hey, I can still throw these discs hard even though they don't feel like a hard plastic. The gecko went past. The interceptor was pin high. With this koi, I want to putt from this one because it's kind of a death putt. One of the main reasons I love this koi so much is the ability to run death putts. The koi doesn't fear death putts. Jordan might, but the koi doesn't. And the disc sat. I ran that in full confidence. You could tell it was basket high. Basket is taller than I am, and I'm like 6 foot. Hits the chains, hits the ground, and just drops. Whereas a lot of other discs probably would have rolled away to about, I don't know, a 20-foot tester on an elevated basket, and nobody wants that. But this hole has this whole walking path as OB, anything on it or to the right, and the basket's like 7 feet from the path. So you want a disc that can crash in on that hillside and not get a crazy skip. I do want to take a minute though and talk about the flight of these discs. Um, Something that's really important to me is knowing that the flight numbers of the disc are accurate to how it's actually going to fly. This koi, as you've seen, it flips up and moves right. It's an understable putter that has -1 turn and no fade, which means once it starts turning, it's not coming back, and that's exactly what the koi does. The interceptor, it's like 5403. It's like an overstable, like Rock 3-ish type disc, and it has enough stability to where you can mush over on it on flat or Anheuser and it's still going to fight out. And it has enough torque resistance to be a great approach disc that's going to flip up and then still fade back out. Then the Gecko is that overstable non-speed, like a Firebird, FD3, Scepter, like whatever, insert overstable non-speed here. It can handle so much torque. Even into a headwind, it can handle like a deep Anheuser into a headwind. Kudos to Elevation Discs for being so accurate with flight numbers, because that seems to be such a rarity in disc golf world. Okay, so I'm gonna try the Gecko. It's a little wide. You can tell, like, I'm so scared of that OB line. All right, interceptor. All right, the koi, little turnover. That thing is so buttery out of the hands. This interceptor literally hit the ground like right here where the tree is and only scooted about 3 or 4 feet. Whereas any other disc that would have done that, I would be out of bounds without a doubt. I think one of the best selling points of these discs is the ability for them to help you out on specific greens with tough landing zones. What a shank of a putt. But thankfully it didn't go far because it's the Koi. Powerful throw. We're about 310 feet away. The basket's kind of blind over the top of the hill. Dead straight shot. There is OB long. I don't think I'll have to worry about that, but we're going to throw all of these about 75% power and see can they actually fly when they're thrown with a lot of torque. First, I'm going to throw the Koi on like a wide hyzer angle, see if I can get a full flight. The interceptor. Holy hyzer. I'm going to try the Gecko on a big anhyzer. So I would say from like my initial thoughts, those discs are perfectly capable. Why is the word capable so hard to say? Perfectly capable of being thrown at full power. I kind of early released the interceptor a little bit, and I mean, honestly, as soon as I threw it, a huge tail crosswind comes through and just mushes it way further left than it was or would have been. The Gecko and the Koi got down here and they had good full flights. So I would say they passed the torque test. The Koi, if you gain nothing else from this video, the Koi is a phenomenal putter and has so many uses. There's a Mando on this tree right here. You got to go left of, and it's very elevated basket on a sloping green. So I'm going to throw a turnover with the Koi, a forehand with the Gecko, and then just kind of the spike hyzer approach with the interceptor. Gecko on a forehand. Dude. I want to see the stability of that though. Like, it's a little bit of a crosswind and the wind pushed it for sure, but it just fought through it. All right, interceptor, backhand. Oof. Koi on a turnover. I feel like it's a good thing if I hit trees in this video because then you get to see the durability of the discs. You're welcome. Now you know the interceptor's durable even if you hit a tree. This is like a death putt. Elevated basket is probably 7 feet tall at least. Typically on a basket or on a putt like this, I'd be terrified to go for it because if I hit cage, basket, get any kind of funky kick, my disc is probably rolling 30 or 40 feet that way. With a Koi, as we know, Kois aren't scared of death putts. So I can go for this putt with full confidence and know that even if I miss, I'm not going to have that much of a comeback putt. Exhibit A. Hole 8. It's about 300 feet downhill, some trees in the way, and the basket's fairly close to some OB behind it. We already talked about the feel of the discs. Can they handle torque? Are the flight numbers accurate? So one of the last things I want to talk about, the practicality of these discs. Like, why would you use these discs over any other manufacturer? Also, I want to point out right quick, Elevation Discs did not ask me to like promote their discs a certain way. They honestly just told me, hey, let us know what you think about these. So my opinions are my honest opinions. Don't think I'm being pushed to give a certain agenda with these discs. They just asked for my honest opinion, so that's what I'm going to do. We're going to see if we can shot shape with these because that's part of the usefulness of a disc. Can it handle shot shapes? All right, I'm going to start off with the interceptor. I'm going to try to throw it kind of flat and dead straight. Woo, sort of flat. I gotta stop throwing them so low. Keep forgetting that I'm throwing low into a tailwind. It's gonna. All right, with the Koi, I'm gonna try a little bit of a crafty hyzer flip. Dude, that disc glides so far. I love that putter, man. All right, with the Gecko, I'm gonna throw a flex shot with the forehand and see if it has enough stability to fight back out of it. Even though I threw that low, it still had a great turn to it, kept some glide, and fought back out to get me in circle one. All right, the gecko made it down here. Koi sort of goated, a little bit of a cheat code. It's like pin high at 10 feet. I think we're at about 3 down now. I want to point out that these discs can even handle wind, because it's been a constant like 10-mile-an-hour wind the whole time I've played, with random gusts of up to like 30 miles per hour. And I'm trying to wait in between gusts, but still I'm having to throw in the wind. And you can tell these discs are not affected by it. Not any more than any other disc would be. So. All right, skipping over to hole 18. It's only about 212 feet, but you can tell it's on this like peninsula of an island. It's a sloped green, OB on the walking path left. And if you're short, it's OB. So it plays as an island. Kind of a tough shot, shall only be 200 feet. All right, with the gecko, I'm gonna go a big spike hyzer. I think I almost hit a bird. I just had to move my bag to prop it up against my tripod so that the wind doesn't knock my phone over again. All right, I'm gonna go straight at it with the interceptor. It just sits down so nicely, dude. That just like completely handled a 10-mile-an-hour headwind. That's insane. Okay. Lastly, the koi. That wind is brutal. As you can tell, we got a big tailwind, and this is a sloped green. This is a situation where, like, even if I wasn't just using these discs, I would take the koi out of my bag to putt with, because crazy wind, sloped green. I need this putt if I miss it to just sit down. Tried to aim right, thinking the wind would push it. We finished 3 down, not too bad considering the random gusts of 30-mile-an-hour winds. It just kind of proved how useful these discs are anyways. But I'm gonna give you my final thoughts. All right, so my final thoughts with elevation discs. Anyone can find a use for one of their molds in their bag and should at least try their discs out one time. A reason for that is this: you're gonna run into courses that have really tight OBs and difficult greens to land on, and you need a disc that's gonna, when it hits the ground, it just sticks, and you don't have to worry about going OB. You don't have to account for the nose angle or how fast you throw the disc. You can just focus on aiming for the basket and trusting this disc is going to stick where it lands. Everyone needs that in their bag. Secondly, the flight numbers are incredibly accurate. This is an overstable 9-speed. It flies like an overstable 9-speed. Understable putter, it flies like one. Overstable mid and approach, it flies like one. This is my bias towards companies that have accurate flight numbers. I have mad respect for companies that can mold a disc and then also give flight numbers that are incredibly accurate. Elevation discs have done that. The other pro I would talk about with these discs are they're cool and they're fun to throw. There's not another company right now that has made a disc this unique, colorful, flexible, useful, all the things. It's insane what they're doing at Elevation Discs, and they're about to drop a 12-speed driver that I'm super excited to get to try out in the future. You need to go check them out if you haven't already. So y'all heard me say earlier in the video, I am going to be honest with the disc reviews. So I am going to go over some concerns I do have with these Frisbees. The first concern that I do have with these, when I was throwing them the first few holes, you could tell I really struggled of throwing them a little bit short, and that got better throughout the round. But a lot of the reasoning for that is because some form of mental cue in my head makes me think a floppy disc can't handle torque, even though we proved in the video that it can. My second concern would be durability. I've thrown these before this video and hit a lot of trees, and they've held up just fine. The interceptor and the koi, though, are like tanks. They have not received any damage. And the gecko, it might be because of the rim size is a little thinner due to it being a fairway driver and not like an approach or a mid. But that's definitely a concern. And like tacked on with that, I have gotten these stuck in trees a couple of times. You are throwing in a heavily wooded area because of the tackiness of these discs. They're kind of prone to get caught in a tree or a bush, which can be very frustrating if you're out there playing. Again, I just want to thank Elevation Discs. Go check them out at elevationdiscs.com, and they sell their discs on multiple manufacturer sites like infinitedisc.com as well. Go try one of their molds out just once, and I can guarantee you, you're going to find a use for it in your bag. The koi is already in my bag. So to close the video out again, huge thank you to Elevation Discs. Thank you so much for sending these out. Can't wait to work together in the future. A huge thank you to everyone who's supported the channel so far. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications, all the things. As always, love y'all, stay snappy, and do yourself a favor and go check out Elevation Discs, specifically